The hangar fell silent as the Admiral reached for her worn badge, his authority unquestioned. She stood motionless in perfect uniform while he removed the faded metal, turning it over with a smug smile. Then something changed. His face drained of color. His hands began to tremble. The badge slipped from his fingers, clattering against the floor as everyone watched in confusion. But she knew exactly why. Hidden on the back, hand-etched in metal, was a call sign that officially did not exist. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If stories of quiet courage and hidden truth resonate with you, consider subscribing for more untold tales of extraordinary individuals who changed history without seeking glory. Early morning light filtered through the massive hangar doors of Kingfisher Naval Air Station, casting long shadows across the polished floor. The air smelled of metal, jet fuel, and ambition as maintenance crews completed final preparations for inspection. Every surface gleamed, every aircraft aligned with geometric precision, every uniformed figure standing at perfect attention. Change of command inspections happened only rarely, but their consequences could alter careers forever. Commander Adira Thorne moved with practiced efficiency between the junior officers, her experienced eyes catching microscopic imperfections, invisible to ordinary observers. She adjusted a sleeve here, straightened a pin there, leaving perfection in her wake. Admiral Blackwood's inspections are legendary. She reminded a visibly nervous ensign whose hands kept returning to check his buttons. One thread out of place can end a career. He has relieved 3 commanding officers after change of command inspections. The ensign swallowed hard, rechecking his uniform for the 5th time in as many minutes. Around them, similar scenes played out as personnel prepared for scrutiny that could determine their futures. Is it true he once denied promotion to a lieutenant commander because his shoes were buffed clockwise instead of counterclockwise? A young officer whispered. Focus on your own uniform, Lieutenant, Thorne replied, neither confirming nor denying the base legend. Through a side entrance far from the center of activity, Lieutenant Commander Briar Calloway arrived. Unlike the others who moved with nervous energy, she walked with quiet purpose, her steps measured and controlled. She was neither tall nor particularly striking, but something in her economical movements and watchful gaze made her presence felt without effort. The subtle disruption caused by her arrival was evident to those watching closely. Conversations paused as she passed, resumed in lower tones after she moved beyond hearing range. Eyes tracked her movement before deliberately looking elsewhere. She was, in every observable way, an outsider. Lieutenant Commander Zephyr Quinn intercepted Calloway before she could reach the formation area, tablet in hand, professional, courtesy barely masking discomfort. Lieutenant Commander Calloway, your service record finally arrived from Central Command this morning, Quinn said, swiping through digital files with a frown. Thank you, Commander, Calloway replied, voice even and measured, neither friendly nor cold. Quinn hesitated, glancing from the tablet to Calloway and back again. There seems to be an error. According to this, you do not exist. Several nearby officers glanced over at this unusual statement, curiosity momentarily overcoming pre-inspection focus. Calloway met Quinn's gaze without surprise or concern. Administrative oversight, it happens with interdepartmental transfers. Not in my experience, Quinn countered, then straightened professionally. Report to formation. We will address the discrepancy after inspection. Calloway nodded once and continued toward the assembly area, ignoring the speculative glances that followed her progress. The first mystery hung in the air behind her, a naval officer whose records did not exist. As personnel assembled in formation, arranged by rank and division with mathematical precision, Captain Taliesin Fletcher conducted a final pre-inspection sweep. His reputation as Blackwood's counterpart, demanding, uncompromising, career-focused, added weight to each step as he moved down the perfectly aligned rows. This base has the finest record in the fleet, Fletcher reminded them, voice projecting to reach every ear. Today, we showcase that excellence. He stopped abruptly before Calloway, his eyes narrowing at her chest. That badge is non-regulation, Lieutenant Commander. All eyes shifted briefly to the worn squadron insignia on Calloway's uniform. Unlike the pristine pins worn by others, hers showed signs of age and wear. Metal dulled by time, edges worn smooth, clearly different from standard issue. Replace it before Admiral Blackwood arrives, Fletcher ordered, already turning to continue his inspection. I cannot, sir, Calloway replied. Fletcher froze mid-step, turning slowly back to face her. The unexpected response created a ripple of tension through nearby personnel. Refusal of a direct order, especially before inspection, was unthinkable. That was not a suggestion, Commander, Fletcher said, voice lowering dangerously. Understood, sir, Calloway acknowledged without elaboration. And yet, you refuse? Yes, sir. Fletcher studied her for a long moment, searching for signs of defiance or disrespect, finding only calm certainty. Whatever he saw in her expression made him lean closer, voice dropping further. Your funeral, Lieutenant Commander? He moved on, irritation visible in his rigid shoulders and clipped steps. The second mystery revealed itself. What significance could a worn badge possibly hold to justify such risk? Outside, engines announced the arrival of the inspection party. Conversations ceased immediately. Personnel made final adjustments to already perfect uniforms as the black staff car pulled to a precise stop at the hangar entrance. Rear Admiral Emerson Blackwood emerged with deliberate dignity. Silver-haired, tall, his posture announcing decades of command without requiring a single word. His dress uniform displayed rows of decorations earned through a career that had become naval legend. Youngest carrier commander in the fleet, hero of the Coral conflict, marked for Joint Chiefs consideration. His presence alone changed the atmosphere of the hangar, turning professional tension into something approaching dread. Behind him, a junior lieutenant followed with digital clipboard, leaning forward to murmur as they approached the hangar entrance. Sir, there is an anomaly in the personnel manifest. A lieutenant commander who appears to have been assigned here without proper documentation. Blackwood cut him off with a slight gesture that required no words, a gesture that spoke of absolute confidence. I will discover all irregularities myself, Lieutenant. I always do. Captain Fletcher met them at the entrance, saluting with perfect form. Admiral Blackwood, Kingfisher Naval Air Station is prepared for inspection. Blackwood returned the salute with precise economy. Let us begin, Captain. The inspection commenced with methodical thoroughness. Blackwood moved down the line with predatory focus, finding microscopic flaws invisible to ordinary eyes. He questioned officers on technical specifications, protocol numbers, deployment histories, each interaction a potential career inflection point. Your divisional efficiency ratings dropped 2% last quarter, Lieutenant Hayes, Blackwood noted without checking his records. Explain. New personnel integration, sir, Hayes replied, maintaining composure despite the direct challenge. Temporary adjustment period. Temporary has become permanent, Blackwood observed coldly. Fix it. Yes, sir. As Blackwood continued down the line, Maintenance Chief Riker whispered to Quinn from their position at the rear. The new commander is the only one not sweating bullets. Quinn's eyes found Calloway, standing perfectly still at the end of the formation. Maybe because she has nothing to lose. Blackwood reached Calloway's position last. His eyes immediately focused on her badge, the non-regulation anomaly among perfect uniformity. For a moment, he simply studied it, then raised his gaze to her face. That insignia is non-regulation, Lieutenant Commander, he stated, voice neutral but carrying clear expectation. Calloway met his gaze directly. Yes, Admiral. The simple acknowledgement without excuse or explanation caught him momentarily off guard. Officers did not typically agree with criticism without offering justification. Your name and service record? He asked, recovery seamless. Lieutenant Commander Briar Calloway, sir, Tactical Aviation. Blackwood frowned, something flickering across his features. Recognition, perhaps, before disappearing. Your file crossed my desk this morning. Commander, curiously incomplete. Yes, sir. No explanation followed, no attempt to clarify or defend. Her continued calm seemed to irritate him, a subtle challenge to his authority without crossing into insubordination. Explain the badge. Squadron insignia, sir. 80D 1st Tactical. Blackwood's expression shifted subtly, professional distance momentarily replaced by genuine confusion. The 81st was decommissioned 3 years ago. Yes, sir, it was. The hangar fell completely silent, tension spreading like an invisible wave. Even those who did not understand the significance recognized the confrontation forming. The stillness became a living thing, wrapping around the two figures at its center. Blackwood's voice hardened, losing its professional neutrality. "Remove it, Commander! Now!" Calloway stood motionless, neither defiant nor submissive. "I cannot comply with that order, sir." The third mystery emerged. What made this particular badge worth challenging an admiral's direct order? "Insubordination will end your career today," Blackwood stated, not as threat but as simple fact. "Understood, sir." Something in her calm acceptance triggered visible anger in Blackwood's carefully controlled expression. His next words came measured, precisely aimed for maximum impact in front of the assembled personnel. "Since you are unable to follow a simple order," he said, reaching for the badge himself, "perhaps a demonstration of proper protocol is required." He unpinned the badge from her uniform with deliberate slowness, the motion carrying unmistakable symbolism. Removing a squadron insignia publicly was more than discipline. It was humiliation, a questioning of earned identity. Blackwood held the badge up for all to see, voice projecting for maximum effect. "This is what happens when standards slip, when exceptions are made, when sentiment overrides regulation." The worn metal caught the morning light, filtering through the hangar doors, its aged surface absorbing rather than reflecting the brightness. The motif established itself, light revealing what darkness concealed. He turned the badge over casually, about to continue his lecture, then stopped abruptly. The shift in his demeanor was immediate and profound. His face drained of color, authority replaced by shock, words dying unspoken. The badge slipped from his suddenly unsteady fingers, striking the polished floor with a metallic sound that echoed unnaturally loud in the absolute silence. For a heartbeat, no one moved, the collective breath of every witness held in unified suspension. Blackwood knelt slowly, retrieving the badge with a hand that visibly trembled. His eyes remained fixed on what only he could see, etched into the metal's reverse side, hidden from public view until this moment. When he finally spoke, his whispered question hung in the air between them, audible only to Calloway and those standing closest. "How is this possible?" The question itself revealed nothing, yet everything had changed. The Admiral's unmistakable recognition of something impossible transformed the encounter from simple discipline into something far more significant. Whatever he had seen on that badge had shaken a man known throughout the fleet for unshakable composure. Captain Fletcher stepped forward, concern evident. "Admiral, is everything all right?" Blackwood straightened slowly, the badge clutched tightly in his fist, his eyes never leaving Calloway's face. When he spoke, his voice had recovered its authority, though something new colored its edges. "Everyone dismissed except Lieutenant Commander Calloway," he ordered. "Now!" The formation broke with confused murmurs, personnel exchanging baffled glances as they filed out. Fletcher attempted to remain, protocol warring with the unprecedented situation. "Sir, regulations require senior officer presence during disciplinary—" "Out, Captain!" Blackwood's tone permitted no argument. "That is an order." As the massive hangar emptied, leaving only two figures standing in its cavernous space, the morning light strengthened. It illuminated particles of dust floating between them, caught in invisible currents of air, suspended like the moment itself, waiting for revelation. The hangar echoed with departing footsteps as Admiral Blackwood and Lieutenant Commander Calloway stood alone in the vast space. Sunlight streamed through high windows, creating stark contrasts of light and shadow that mirrored the sudden tension between them. Blackwood circled Calloway slowly, examining her with new intensity, the badge still clutched in his hand like evidence of an impossible crime. "Iron Widow died 3 years ago," he finally said, breaking the silence, along with the entire 81st Squadron. Calloway remained at attention, eyes forward, neither acknowledging nor denying his statement. "Evidently not, sir," she replied after a calculated pause. "I read the classified report myself," Blackwood continued, voice hardening. "Total loss, no survivors." "Reports can be incorrect, sir." His composure slipped further, control eroding beneath growing confusion. "Who are you, really?" She met his gaze directly for the first time since the inspection ended. "Exactly who I claim to be." Blackwood pulled a classified tablet from his briefcase, activating it with fingerprint and retinal scan. Images appeared on screen, satellite views of contested airspace, mission briefings with heavy redactions, aircraft trajectories ending in abrupt termination. Operation Crosswind, 3 years ago. Carrier Strike Group Valiant, he stated, watching her closely for reaction. The 81st was ordered to establish air superiority for a covert extraction. Calloway's carefully maintained calm flickered momentarily at the operation name, a micro-expression of recognition that Blackwood immediately noticed. The extraction failed, he continued, pressing his advantage. All aircraft lost, pilot survival impossible. Her response came barely audible, yet carrying absolute certainty. Not impossible, improbable. Their confrontation was interrupted as Lieutenant Commander Nazir Harlow entered with urgent purpose, security badge prominently displayed. "Admiral," Harlow announced, "there has been a security breach in the communications center, multiple classified channels compromised." Blackwood reluctantly shifted focus from Calloway. The investigation temporarily derailed. "When did this occur?" "Within the last 30 minutes, sir. Security protocols initiated, but we are experiencing system irregularities across the base." "We will continue this, Commander," Blackwood said to Calloway, voice heavy with unfinished business. He turned to Harlow. "Escort Commander Calloway to my office and stand guard. She speaks to no one." As they exited the hangar, personnel throughout the base watched with undisguised curiosity. Word had spread rapidly, details morphing with each retelling. Maintenance crews paused their work. Pilots delayed pre-flight checks. Administrative staff found sudden reasons to be in corridors along their path. Everyone sensing that something extraordinary had occurred, though none understood exactly what. In Blackwood's office, Calloway studied the photographs lining the walls while Harlow watched with professional suspicion. Military achievements documented in chronological order. Academy graduation, first command, combat decorations, diplomatic missions. The visual history of a career built on precision and control. She paused at one particular image, a younger Blackwood receiving commendation after the Coral conflict. Her finger traced a figure in the background, a half-hidden face with features similar to her own, barely visible at the edge of the frame. Harlow noticed immediately. "You were there during the Coral operations?" "Not officially," she replied without elaboration. "What does that mean?" he pressed, professional distance momentarily forgotten. Calloway changed subject with practiced ease. "You have questions about the badge." Harlow hesitated, drawn between protocol and curiosity. "The Iron Widow is a ghost story. Special operations pilots tell it to rookies. A pilot who flew impossible missions never returned to base until everyone else was safe." He studied her with new intensity. "Some say she could predict enemy movements before they happened." "Most legends contain elements of truth," Calloway observed, neither confirming nor denying. The mystery of the badge resolved. Iron Widow was not merely a call sign, but a legend within naval aviation. A ghost story suddenly materialized. Yet 2 new questions emerged. How could someone believed dead suddenly appear in formation? And why would her presence cause such alarm in an admiral? Meanwhile, in the mess hall, officers gathered in small groups, normal social divisions forgotten in the wake of the morning's events. "Blackwood looked like he had seen a ghost," Lieutenant Hayes said to the group around him, voice lowered despite the room's ambient noise. "What is the significance of the 81st, before my time?" a younger ensign asked. Commander Quinn approached their table, tablet in hand. "I have been searching records since this morning. The 81st Squadron files are completely sanitized from accessible databases. It is as if they never existed." Maintenance Chief Riker, older than most officers and carrying the confidence of decades of service, settled heavily into a chair beside them. "I worked carrier ops during Coral," he offered. "There was a pilot. Never saw her face, just her aircraft returning. Always alone, always last." "What was her call sign?" Quinn asked. "That is just it," Riker said, lowering his voice further. "She did not have one, at least not one anyone would say aloud. But after particularly rough missions, I would hear officers whisper about the widow bringing everyone home." In the communications center, Blackwood conducted an encrypted video call with Fleet Command. The normally bustling nerve center operated at half capacity, many systems offline as technicians worked to identify the security breach. Admiral Alara Frost appeared on screen, her expression stern before Blackwood even spoke. "You are requesting classified files from Operation Crosswind? Why?" "Personnel verification, Admiral. Standard procedure for change of command," Blackwood replied, keeping his voice neutral, despite the urgency behind his request. "There is nothing standard about Crosswind, Emerson," Frost countered sharply. "Those files are sealed by direct order." Blackwood leaned closer to the screen, lowering his voice further. "I have a pilot claiming to be from the 81st, wearing Iron Widow insignia." Frost's expression changed instantly, professional distance replaced by alarmed recognition. "That is impossible." "That was my assessment as well." Frost glanced off screen momentarily, then leaned closer to the camera, suddenly wary. "If someone is impersonating—" She paused, recalculating her response. "Handle this quietly, Emerson. Immediately." "What are you not telling me?" Blackwood pressed. "This is not a secure channel," Frost replied, cutting the connection abruptly. The screen went dark, reflecting Blackwood's troubled expression back at him. The communication center lights flickered briefly, then stabilized, the momentary darkness emphasizing his growing sense of hidden threats. Later, as Harlow escorted Calloway to temporary quarters, they passed the aircraft maintenance bay. Massive doors stood open to accommodate work on the squadron's fighters, maintenance crews swarming over exposed engines and control systems. Calloway stopped abruptly at a partially disassembled F-35, attention caught by something others would miss. "Something wrong, Commander?" Harlow asked, hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm. Calloway approached the aircraft, examining unusual modifications to the engine, housing with focused intensity. "This is not standard." "Configuration. Who authorized these modifications?" A nearby maintenance technician overheard. "Came from command yesterday. All aircraft are being retrofitted." "With these exact specifications?" Calloway asked, concern edging her voice. "Yes, ma'am. Full fleet upgrade." Calloway's expression darkened. "These are the exact modifications the 81st tested, before Crosswind." Understanding dawned in her eyes. "Before we discovered the fatal flaw." "What flaw?" Harlow asked. "The system creates a resonance frequency under certain conditions," she explained, pointing to a junction where engine output fed into communication arrays. "It makes the aircraft visible to specific detection systems, like a beacon." "Why would Command implement a flawed system?" Harlow asked, professional suspicion now directed elsewhere. "That," Calloway replied, "is the question that got my squadron killed." In a secure room designated for classified review, Blackwood accessed restricted files on Operation Crosswind. The small space, designed to prevent electronic eavesdropping, felt increasingly claustrophobic as images filled the screen. Footage showed the 81st Squadron engaged with unknown aircraft, demonstrating advanced capabilities beyond known enemy technology. "Implement countermeasures," a voice ordered through tactical communications. "Countermeasures ineffective," came the response. "They are reading our signatures faster than we can mask them." Aircraft after aircraft disappeared from tactical display, blips vanishing in silent testimony to lives lost. The final transmission from Iron Widow played, "Mayday, Mayday, Iron Widow to command, countermeasures failing. They have weaponized our own tech against us." The footage showed her aircraft pursued into a violent storm system before the feed cut out. Blackwood paused the footage, zooming on the pilot's partial face visible during the transmission. The match to Calloway was undeniable, down to the small scar near her left temple. "It really is her," he whispered to the empty room. "But how did she survive? And why return now?" The lighting in the secure room dimmed suddenly, emergency systems activating. Red warning lights pulsed along the walls as base alert klaxons sounded. Blackwood exited to find the command center in controlled chaos. Officers moved with urgent purpose between stations. Communications officers attempted to raise external contacts. Security personnel checked weapons. "Report," Blackwood ordered, authority cutting through the tension. "Unidentified aircraft approaching base perimeter," the radar technician responded. "Signature does not match known profiles." Blackwood studied the radar display, recognition dawning. "These signatures match those recorded during Operation Crosswind." "Sir?" The technician looked up in confusion. "How long until intercept?" 20 minutes at current speed, sir." Blackwood moved through corridors with renewed urgency, finding Calloway being escorted between Buildings. He confronted her directly, the public setting forgotten in his need for answers. You knew they were coming, he accused, voice low but intense. That is why you are here. The base lighting flickered again, shadows shifting across her face, momentarily transforming her features into something harder, something forged through survival when others had perished. I have been trying to warn command for months, she replied, the carefully maintained calm finally breaking. No one would listen. Warn them about what? The real reason the 81st was shot down, she answered, intensity matching his own. Around them, the base continued emergency preparations. Pilots ran toward aircraft, security teams established defensive positions. Communications officers attempted to contact Fleet Command. The growing urgency contrasted sharply with the stillness between Blackwood and Calloway, a pocket of concentrated tension amid wider chaos. Calloway reached for her reclaimed badge, removing a hidden data chip concealed within its backing. The small device gleamed in the emergency lighting, innocuous yet clearly significant. Operation Crosswind was not about extraction, she continued, voice steady despite the sirens. It was about elimination. Our own command sent us to die because of what is on this chip. Base defenses activated as unidentified aircraft approached, weapons systems coming online automatically. The distant sound of fighter engines spooling up provided grim counterpoint to her words. The 81st discovered something during routine system updates, she explained. A backdoor protocol embedded in our tactical networks, not enemy infiltration, our own design. The implications settled heavily between them, connections forming in Blackwood's expression. The same people who buried your squadron, he began, understanding dawning. Calloway finished his thought, are now in control of our entire defense network, and they just activated the kill switch. The symbolic motif transformed. What was once light revealing secrets in darkness became darkness revealing truths previously hidden in light. The base emergency systems, designed to illuminate threats, instead exposed the greater danger already present within. The silent high-tension turning point arrived as Blackwood made his decision. He took the data chip from Calloway's hand, examined it briefly, then inserted it into his secure tablet. As the information loaded, his expression shifted from skepticism to shock, then to grim resolution. Command center now, he ordered, all pretense of investigation abandoned. We have minutes, not hours. As they moved with urgent purpose toward the command center, alarms intensified. Overhead lights failed completely, plunging corridors into darkness before emergency systems engaged. The physical environment reflected the larger truth. Systems designed for protection had become vectors for attack. They reached the command center as communications failed. Across the base, tactical displays showed patrol aircraft spinning out of control, systems hijacked by unseen commands. All stations, implement security protocol Sierra 9-7, Blackwood ordered. Complete communications blackout, manual override on all systems. Officers scrambled to comply, but electronic locks engaged across the command center, trapping personnel at their stations. We are locked out, sir, a technician reported, panic edging his voice. Systems are not responding to override codes. On the main screen, automated defense platforms turned toward the base's own structures. Weapons designed to protect from external threats now aimed inward, controlled by the very backdoor protocol Calloway had warned about. How long have you known? Calloway asked Blackwood, her voice cutting through the mounting chaos. Known what? He responded, focus split between her accusation and the crisis unfolding around them. That your promotion to Joint Chiefs was built on Operation Crosswind, she said. That your career advanced on the silence of dead pilots. Before Blackwood could respond, the command center doors burst open. Captain Fletcher entered with security personnel, weapons drawn and aimed at Calloway. Admiral, we have orders from Fleet Command, Fletcher announced. Lieutenant Commander Calloway is to be detained immediately as a security risk. The standoff crystallized everything into a single moment of decision. Security personnel awaiting orders, Calloway standing calmly, despite the weapons trained on her. Blackwood caught between protocol and emerging truth. Lower your weapons, Blackwood ordered. Sir, Fleet Command specifically instructed, Fletcher began. I said lower your weapons, Blackwood repeated, authority hardening his voice. That is a direct order, Captain. The tension stretched between them, protocol warring with chain of command. Fletcher finally nodded to his security team, who lowered their weapons with visible reluctance. "Sir," Fletcher said, confusion evident, "what is happening?" Blackwood turned to the command center at large. Decision made. "What is happening, Captain, is that we are under attack, not from external forces, but from within our own command structure." He gestured to Calloway. "Lieutenant Commander Briar Calloway is not our enemy. She may be the only person who can save this base, and possibly the fleet." Fletcher's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. "Admiral, with all due respect, this woman appeared out of nowhere. Her records do not exist. She openly defied your orders during inspection." "Her records do not exist," Blackwood confirmed, "because someone erased them, someone who wanted to ensure that what she knows died with her squadron." He held up the badge that had started everything, turning it to reveal what had been hidden. Hand-etched into the metal, the call sign, Iron Widow, followed by a date and coordinates. "Lieutenant Commander Calloway is the sole survivor of the 81st Tactical Squadron, officially declared lost during Operation Crosswind," Blackwood announced, "and she is returned with evidence that will implicate officers at the highest levels of command in treason." The factual shock landed with physical force. The mysterious pilot was not just any officer, but a ghost returned from a classified disaster, carrying evidence that threatened the command structure itself. And now, the base was under attack from the very systems designed to protect it, controlled by those who had already sacrificed one squadron to protect their secrets. The command center erupted into controlled chaos as the implications of Blackwood's announcement registered. Tactical displays showed defense systems activating against the base itself, communications networks failing sequentially, and approaching aircraft with signatures matching those from Operation Crosswind. "We have 14 minutes before those aircraft reach weapons range," Calloway stated, her focus shifting immediately from personal vindication to imminent threat. "And approximately 9 minutes before automated defenses complete targeting solutions on our own structures." "Options," Blackwood demanded, turning to the assembled command staff. Captain Fletcher, still processing the revelation, struggled to reconcile protocol with the unfolding crisis. "Sir, regardless of Commander Calloway's identity, we have direct orders from Fleet Command." "Fleet Command is compromised," Calloway interrupted, moving to a tactical station. "The same backdoor protocol that destroyed the 81st has been integrated into all fleet systems during the past 3 years." She accessed the terminal, fingers flying across the interface with practiced efficiency. "I need Level 7 access to implement countermeasures." Blackwood didn't hesitate. He placed his hand on the biometric scanner, entered his authorization code, then added retinal verification. "Full access granted, Commander. Do what you need to do." The symbolic motif completed its transformation. The Admiral, who had attempted to strip away her identity, now granted her access to the most secure systems on the base. Light and darkness exchanged places again, illumination coming from unexpected sources. "Everyone out except essential personnel," Blackwood ordered. "Implement physical security protocols." All electronic communications ceased. As officers scrambled to comply, Calloway worked with focused intensity. The back door operates through a cascading authentication protocol. It exploits legitimate credentials to spread through connected systems. "How do we stop it?" Commander Quinn asked, remaining at her station despite the evacuation order. "We cannot stop it," Calloway answered without looking up. "But we can redirect it." On screen, base defense systems continued their ominous rotation toward inhabited structures. Weapons designed to protect from external threats now prepared to fire inward. "I am creating a false authentication path," Calloway explained, channeling the protocol into an isolated server cluster. Outside, squadron pilots ran toward their aircraft, despite automated hangar doors closing to prevent takeoff. Maintenance crews worked frantically to override mechanical systems as security personnel established defensive positions with small arms, the only weapons unaffected by the electronic takeover. In the command center, Calloway accessed the data chip she had preserved within her badge. "This contains the original backdoor code the 81st discovered. I modified it to create a vaccine of sorts." "How did you survive?" Fletcher asked, professional skepticism momentarily replaced by genuine curiosity. The report said total loss. "I ejected over the storm front," she replied, attention split between the question and her work. My aircraft's systems were compromised, but not before I transferred the backdoor code to an isolated device. The defensive countermeasures showed first signs of success. Several weapons platforms went offline, their targeting systems confused by conflicting authentication paths. It is working, Quinn confirmed, monitoring base systems. Temporarily, Calloway cautioned. We have minutes, not hours. The incoming aircraft are not automated drones. They are piloted by individuals who know exactly what they are doing. Blackwood studied the tactical display with growing understanding. This is not just an attack, it is a cleanup operation. Yes, Calloway confirmed. Elimination of evidence and witnesses, just like Crosswind. The command center doors opened, admitting Lieutenant Commander Harlow with a security team. Admiral, we have restored manual control to Hangar Bay 3, 4 aircraft prepped and ready. Blackwood turned to Calloway. Can you fly? Always, she replied simply. Then get up there. Take Quinn and Harlow as your wing. Stop those aircraft before they reach the base. Calloway hesitated, the first uncertainty she had shown. The counter-protocol needs 17 more minutes to fully deploy. We do not have 17 minutes, Blackwood countered. I will complete the deployment. You are the only pilot who has encountered these aircraft before. Their eyes met in silent communication. Years of unspoken history crystallized into a moment of mutual recognition. She understood what he was offering. Redemption for them both. The sequence is on this screen, she said, stepping away from the terminal. Do not deviate from the pattern, regardless of what happens to base systems. Understood, Commander. Now go. As Calloway left with Quinn and Harlow, Fletcher approached Blackwood. Sir, with respect, you are placing an enormous amount of trust in someone who appeared out of nowhere this morning. Not out of nowhere, Captain, Blackwood corrected, taking Calloway's place at the terminal. She survived something that should have killed her, spent years gathering evidence, and returned precisely when the next phase of the operation was being implemented. He continued the sequence Calloway had begun, watching as defensive systems slowly relinquished their targeting solutions. That is not coincidence. That is commitment to duty beyond anything I have witnessed in 30 years of service. On the flight line, Calloway led Quinn and Harlow toward the only operational hangar. Maintenance crews had manually overridden door mechanisms, keeping a narrow opening available for the pilots. What are we up against? Quinn asked as they ran. Aircraft with advanced electronic warfare capabilities, Calloway replied. They will attempt to compromise our systems, maintain radio silence once airborne, use visual signals only. How do you know they will not simply shoot us down? Harlow questioned. They want the base intact, she explained. Their mission is to secure the backdoor protocol and eliminate witnesses, not create an incident that would trigger wider investigation. The pilots reached their aircraft, crews helping them into cockpits with practiced efficiency. Calloway settled into the familiar confines of an F-35, hands automatically finding controls, muscle memory transcending the years since she had last flown in combat. Stay above Angels 20 until we make contact, she instructed over the squadron frequency. They will attempt to force us lower, where base defensive systems may engage us if the counter-protocol fails. The fighters taxied through the narrow hangar opening, powerful engines spooling up as they reached the runway. One by one, they rocketed into the sky, climbing sharply toward the approaching threat. In the command center, Blackwood monitored both the counter-protocol deployment and the tactical situation developing above. Base systems continued cycling between automated and manual control, the electronic battle playing out across screens, as percentage counters slowly climbed toward completion. Sir, a communications officer called. We have an encrypted transmission from Fleet Command. Admiral Frost is demanding situation report. No response, Blackwood ordered. All communications remain severed until the counter-protocol completes. Fletcher studied the Admiral with new understanding. You are deliberately disobeying a direct order from Fleet Command. I am preventing the compromise of this base and potentially the entire Pacific Fleet, Blackwood corrected. If that requires disobeying an order I believe to be illegitimate, so be it. The tactical display showed Calloway's squadron making first contact with the approaching aircraft. The enemy formation immediately split, executing maneuvers that no standard pilot training would include. They are initiating electronic warfare protocols, a technician reported, attempting to access our defensive networks through the fighters' communication systems. Disconnect all integration between air units and base systems, Blackwood ordered. Our pilots are on their own. Above the base, Calloway led her small formation directly into the approaching threat. 6 aircraft against 4, with the enemy holding every technological advantage. Yet, they had not anticipated a pilot who knew their tactics, who had survived their previous attempt at elimination. She executed a vertical climb that brought her directly through their formation, disrupting their carefully coordinated electronic attack. Quinn and Harlow followed, each engaging separate targets, keeping the enemy too occupied with immediate defense to continue their electronic warfare. The aerial battle unfolded with brutal efficiency. Calloway's experience matched against their technical superiority, her knowledge of their methods allowing her to anticipate moves that would have overwhelmed any other pilot. One enemy aircraft fell, then another, their destruction visible from the ground as bright flashes against the clear sky. In the command center, the counter-protocol finally reached completion. Base systems returned to manual control, defense platforms powering down as the backdoor lost its access points. Counter-protocol deployment successful, the technician confirmed, all systems returning to secure status. Blackwood allowed himself a moment of relief before refocusing on the aerial engagement. Status of our aircraft? 3 still engaged, sir. 1 enemy aircraft attempting to disengage and retreat. They cannot be allowed to report back, Blackwood stated. The element of surprise is our only advantage against whatever comes next. Above, Calloway had reached the same conclusion. She pursued the fleeing aircraft with single-minded focus, pushing her fighter to performance limits few pilots would attempt. The distance closed, targeting solution achieved, mission completed with clinical precision. When she returned to base, landing her fighter with the same controlled competence that defined everything she did, the entire command staff had assembled on the flight line. The morning's inspection formation reassembled in very different circumstances, watching as she taxied to a stop and climbed down from the cockpit. Blackwood stepped forward as she approached, the badge that had started everything held in his open palm. The worn metal caught the sunlight, the hand-etched call sign now visible to all. "Lieutenant Commander Calloway," he said, voice projecting to reach every witness. "The United States Navy owes you an apology I doubt can ever be adequately expressed." The formal acknowledgement hung in the air, the first public recognition of years of buried truth. "Your actions today saved this base and potentially prevented catastrophic compromise of fleet security," Blackwood continued. "More importantly, your persistence in seeking justice for the 81st Squadron, despite every institutional obstacle placed in your path, represents the highest traditions of naval service." He held out the badge. "This belongs to you, not merely as a memento, but as a symbol of a debt that can never truly be repaid." Calloway accepted the badge, her composure unchanged despite the public vindication. "The debt was never to me, Admiral. It was to those who did not return." Blackwood nodded once, understanding the deeper meaning beneath her words. Then, in a gesture unprecedented between their ranks, he straightened to attention and rendered a formal salute. The symbolic power of the moment registered immediately. An admiral saluting a lieutenant commander inverted the entire chain of command, acknowledging a moral authority that transcended rank insignia. Across the formation, Captain Fletcher followed suit, then Commander Quinn, Lieutenant Commander Harlow. One by one, every officer present rendered the same salute, a visual wave of recognition spreading across the assembled personnel. Calloway returned the salute with perfect military precision, accepting the acknowledgement not for herself, but for the squadron whose memory she had preserved when all official record attempted to erase them. 1 week later, a sunset ceremony honored the 81st Tactical Squadron, their names finally spoken aloud, their sacrifice acknowledged. Photos of the fallen pilots displayed on a memorial wall, candles lit beneath each image, families present for long overdue recognition. Admiral Blackwood had been temporarily relieved of command, pending investigation into the security breach, his career effectively finished. Yet he attended in dress uniform, standing at the periphery, witnessing the consequences of choices made years before. Calloway found him there as the ceremony concluded, guests departing into the gathering darkness. "You did not have to come," she observed. "Yes, I did," he replied simply. "My career advanced because I accepted the official story without question. Their families deserve to see me acknowledge that failing personally. The moral resonance of his statement hung between them, accountability finally accepted. "What happens now?" he asked. "Internal security investigation continues," she replied. "Several flag officers have been quietly removed from command pending review. And you?" "Reinstated to active duty. New assignment with fleet security oversight." Blackwood nodded, understanding the significance. "They will resist change. The system protects itself." "Systems are composed of individuals," she countered. "Individuals who make choices." The echo of their first meeting reverberated beneath their words. The same tension of authority and defiance transformed into mutual recognition of a shared purpose larger than either of their individual paths. "They offered to restore your rank," Calloway noted. "I saw the communication." "I declined," Blackwood replied. "Some things cannot be made right through promotion or decoration." The symbolic motif completed its final transformation. What began as light revealing darkness, then darkness revealing light, finally became understanding that both existed simultaneously, inseparable and necessary for complete truth. The following morning found Calloway on the flight line at dawn, the same time and place where her reappearance had begun just days earlier. The rising sun painted aircraft in gold, the metal absorbing and reflecting light in patterns reminiscent of her worn squadron badge. Admiral Ilara Frost waited beside a staff car, her expression carefully neutral as Calloway approached. "Commander," Frost acknowledged, "your new orders are confirmed. Fleet Security Division, effective immediately." "Thank you, Admiral," Calloway replied with the same professional detachment. "The investigation will be contained," Frost continued, "limited to those directly involved in Operation Crosswind and subsequent events." "That is not acceptable," Calloway stated without hesitation. "Excuse me?" "The investigation cannot be limited or contained. The compromise extends further than you realize." Frost's expression hardened. "You have achieved your objective, Commander. The 81st has been acknowledged. Responsible parties are being held accountable. Do not overreach." "When my squadron was betrayed, I made a promise," Calloway said, her calm unchanged despite the implied threat. "Not just to expose what happened, but to ensure it could never happen again." She removed her squadron badge, the metal catching morning light just as it had days before. But now she turned it, revealing the etched call sign to Frost without hiding. "Iron Widow was never just a call sign," she explained. "It was a reminder that some loyalties survive beyond all reasonable expectation, beyond official records, beyond convenient narratives." "Be careful, Commander," Frost warned. "Your reinstatement can be reconsidered." "Yes," Calloway agreed. "It can. But the truth cannot be uninvited once it has entered the room." She replaced the badge on her uniform, visible and acknowledged, no longer hidden, but carried with the same quiet certainty that had defined her return. "I will see you at the security briefing, Admiral," she concluded, walking past Frost toward the waiting aircraft that would transport her to her new assignment. Behind her, the rising sun illuminated the base where everything had changed, where a worn badge with a hand-etched call sign had forced an institution to confront its failings, where an admiral had knelt to retrieve what he had arrogantly dismissed, finding in that simple object the evidence of his own complicity and the opportunity for redemption. The badge remained where it belonged, no longer hidden, but carried in plain sight. A reminder that sometimes the greatest service comes not from following orders, but from the courage to question them, that some truths remain regardless of official record, that what is etched by hand often lasts longer than what is printed by authority. Have you ever known someone who stood alone for what was right, even when systems and authority stood against them? Someone who never sought recognition, but deserved it more than anyone? The quietest heroes often make the deepest impact, not through grand gestures, but through unwavering persistence when others would have surrendered.